Welcome back, everyone, as always, to Beyond the Cinema. I'm Ethan.
I'm Spencer.
I'm Tyler.
That was so funny.
Get it? Oh my goodness, it's so funny because I was the Invisible Man, you know?
I hate you. I don't want...
It's so funny. We're putting that in.
That's hilarious.
That's the
Alright.
one. Okay.
Back
Beautiful.
to the basics. That's what we're reviewing today.
We're talking about
That
the Invisible Man.
god-awful joke Tyler just made. So, we just got back from a screening of The Invisible Man.
Well, Tyler and Ethan did.
Tyler and
Yeah.
Tyler's here along for the ride. Spencer's here along for the ride.
I wasn't
Your
invited.
guys' name joke confused me.
I wasn't invited.
True, because we only had 2 passes.
Because
So
we started out the critics things with 2, and
Yeah.
now...
we need to get Spencer's email
It's
registered.
fine. Yeah.
And
I'm not bitter.
And much like a young family, we just keep growing. Anyways, we're here to talk about The Invisible Man. We are going to go ahead and kick it off. Spencer's just going to listen.
Yep.
Occasionally throw in his thoughts.
Non-spoiler.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and start off with non-spoilers. And then pretty quickly we'll go ahead and move into spoiler territory because I think that's the better way to do it.
Well, on TBH, you've seen the trailer, you've
seen
seen
the
the
movie,
spoilers,
yeah.
but yeah, okay, so we just talked about Fantasy Island not long ago.
Which is another Blumhouse horror.
It's poop.
Yeah,
it's
no,
bad.
It's like insultingly awful. Like it's just
Yeah. So I mean, looking forward to The Invisible Man, I was very excited for this. Like the trailers, it looked really interesting. It was a very unique take on a original movie monster. I was really nervous though because Blumhouse does not have a good track record.
and neither does Universal's Dark Universe.
So
It was 2 odds stacked against it.
But it was quite good.
Yeah, we walked out pretty impressed. It's a pretty stellar movie. I can't even lie. So, I think our takeaway from it was that it is one of the most like intense, anxiety-riddled, suspenseful horror movies in recent years. Like I was stressed. I walked out of that movie and was walking to my car, and I still felt like pain in my chest because of how tensed up I was the entire movie.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd say I think it's comparable to the feeling I had when watching A Quiet Place for the first time. Like, and I really wasn't expecting to have that because I remember coming out of A Quiet Place for the first time and thinking like this is what horror should aspire to be, and like this is what people should do more, and they
The Invisible
are.
Man hits
they are.
it. Yeah.
And without
and
feeling
even then-
unoriginal either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like, it's the same type of horror as A Quiet Place. It just is it just takes... The problem with horror nowadays is that everything is so cookie cutter. It's all... The jump scares are all the exact same. You can straight face them at this point. And this movie was intense. It was unique. It was creative with its scares. It was the dumbest stuff that were made scary. Like seeing a butt print in a chair, or seeing like a shoe print all of a sudden appear in a carpet. And that stuff was like, what are you doing there?
Yeah, it takes a lot of unexpected turns. Like
Yes.
there are very shocking moments in this film,
There
and it's
for
it's
sure
more
are.
than one. Like you're
There's
watching
a handful.
Yeah, where you're watching it and it's not what you're expecting. It's really shocking, and it's not just like shocking for shock factor. It's really well written to the point where you're like, wow, this is. It is like for a Blumhouse horror movie, and especially for what they're trying to do with like the Dark Universe. This is like next level.
It really is. And one thing that I think is really awesome about it is I can't remember how the original Invisible Man became invisible.
It was like a science experiment gone wrong.
Yeah, sort of deal. In this one, I won't get into it until we get into the spoiler territory, but I thought it was going to be something stupid like he drank a potion and now he's invisible, and it was like that's that. And I was prepared to kind of suspend my disbelief. But the way they explain that
Is very believable.
Is really believable. It's really grounded.
Genuinely made me think, why hasn't somebody done this? Why
Tried
cannot we
doing
not be
this.
invisible yet?
Yeah, like it's really well done. And I won't explain this one too much to keep spoilers out of it until the next part of the review, but one thing comes to mind with creature design, which is kind of him, and it's really good. Like, he's still a person, but every time we see him, it's like that's kind of unnerving to look at. I thought just everything about it was very. It's just a solid horror movie. Like,
absolutely.
I can guarantee it's probably going to be one of my favorite horror movies of the year, if not my favorite. I just haven't seen the rest.
And I mean, performances are great. Elizabeth Moss gives it her all in this.
Yes.
Like because I mean, from what you've seen in the trailers, like you understand that he died and then basically like becomes invisible and just torment her and make everyone think she's crazy.
Right.
And oh my goodness, she does an incredible job of playing crazy but not crazy.
Yeah.
Because like she is, it's like the same thing where like if this was happening to you, you would go crazy, but she's not like imagining it, but it's like the actual
it's
crazy of like what is happening to me,
and the frustration of like it's happening. I know it's happening. Why won't anyone believe me? Sort of thing. And I mean, her breakdowns during the movie. And one thing I really liked, and I think from here we'll move on to spoiler territory. After this, but one thing I really like is, however, it is something to kind of keep in mind for our more kind of, how do I say this? Our more psychologically stressed viewers, is that it is a story of abuse, basically. It is a story of, like, very strong domestic abuse. It's very brutal. But it's told in a way that is very, very realistic. I've taken psychology courses, and everything that it goes through and how he behaves and the awful stuff he does is all so in line with what I've picked up from that class and picked up from those courses. It's just like the gaslighting and the targeting and all that stuff is just so like viscerally like, this seems like a story that could happen almost, it's very grounded for a movie called The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a rating of what's our new one?
See it.
See it.
Definitely see it.
I think we're both see it, and Spencer is honorary see it. But, so from here we'll move into spoiler territory. So Tyler, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. No. So like as for the plot is, I mean, because we talked about how you see the movie in the trailers, and you do like there is a lot that could have been saved, but there's
like 3 scenes that weren't in the trailers.
There were a lot of like jaw dropping scenes in this film, because there's an instance where she's staying with a family friend, and his daughter, and there's an instance
who's like
where
a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah. And like so Elizabeth Moss' character is like sobbing because of what's going on, what's happening to her, and she like the daughter comes in to like comfort her and say like, hey, we can have a girls' night, like me and you, like cheer you up, and then like Adrian the Invisible Man just smacks this girl, and then
the daughter, not Elizabeth Moss,
just like almost like just completely knocks her flat on her feet. And then that leaves her thinking that like Elizabeth Moss's character just hit her, because obviously you can't make any sense of just getting hit, and then she was the only person in the room. And it's moments like that where you're just like, oh shoot, like he's not just playing games with her as in like, I'm gonna burn your food, or like breathe on the back of your neck. Like it's very real what he is like. He is trying to it's a unravel. Chess game. Yeah, that every little thing of support that she has, because she lived with him, like they were living together. That
because he's a cop, and so he was kind of protecting.
Well, I mean, like Adrian, like he was her support system. Like that's what he was. It wasn't a good support system, but that's what he was. So she left that, and what she had to rely on was this family that was taking care of her and her sister. And Adrian just completely pulls everything out from underneath her, and it's crazy. Like Elizabeth Moss does such a good job playing somebody who really has lost it all. But she's so like, she has such strong convictions, and I was really impressed with just how interesting and bold the plot was, rather than just being like spooky and he's doing scary
and
stuff.
Like ghost movie, but not really. Yeah,
but it's really
my big jaw dropper, because I mean it was it honestly might have been one of the most shocking movie going moments I've had in the movie theater in my entire life. Like, my jaw was like, like, it's like that gif of Brian from Family Guy where his jaw just goes onto the table. Is at one point, so how he actually becomes invisible isn't a potion, like I said. It's actually a bodysuit covered in tiny 360 cameras. And they live stream everything around him and perceive his environment and take in every pinpoint and then project it outward over his bodysuit. So he's almost wearing a skin suit of his surroundings. And it's just made up of cameras. It is when the suit starts to go down because she manages to catch him and stab him a couple times, so the suit starts malfunctioning. You see him kind of walking towards her, and it has this very humanoid but almost not appearance to it. It's really well designed. But anyways, she breaks back into their old house, her and Adrian's house. And she finds the suits, and that's how she realizes, I'm right, he's turning himself invisible. And she manages to steal back one of the suits, and he catches her right as she's getting ready to leave, but she manages to escape. She calls her sister, who is her last support line, and they meet up at a restaurant. And she's trying to tell her, I want to show you, I have proof that I'm right, that this is happening.
And before you say what happens, I genuinely in this scene was just expecting her to be like, I found this invisible suit, and then her sister's going to be like, BS. Like, that was the expectation.
That's what happens in horror movies.
You just think that her sister's be like, yeah, I don't believe you. And then it's just going to be, but
then I'm still fending for myself. But no, what happens is they're sitting across from each other, crowded restaurant, and she goes, he has a suit that allows him to turn invisible. And when it pans around to see the sister's reaction, she's looking at something. And it pans around a little more, and you see a knife floating in the air, and all of a sudden it slits the sister's neck and throws the knife into Elizabeth Moss's hand. And she's stuck with it.
And then he clenches her hand
on her fist,
holding the knife so she can't let it go.
And all of a sudden everyone in the restaurant looks. And he frames her for the murder of her own sister right there. And it only happens in the space of like 15 seconds. Like, it is a boom scene.
It's in an instant.
And me and Tyler both went, no! Like that. Like, it was a scene that got a visceral reaction out of me.
It's like, very visceral storytelling. I think it does, like, because it is a horror movie, like, it's kind of going to resolve itself the way you'd think it would, but in those, like, really key moments in the plot, it doesn't follow what is predictable. Yeah, it subverts expectations in a non-disappointing way. Yeah. If that makes sense. There are other moments in this film like that. It's really great.
I can't believe you predicted one of them. One of them is that the entire time Adrian...
Not the entire time, least at the end.
No, I mean the entire time we see this character, who is Adrian's brother, and who's a lawyer, who kind of represents Adrian's estate and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, right before kind of the whole climax happens, we find out he actually knows Adrian has turned himself invisible, and because he's very fearful of him, is helping him, and is trying to get Elizabeth Moss to find out she's pregnant with Adrian's baby, and he's trying to get her to he's trying to get her to go back to Adrian. The brother's in on it. Yeah, he's trying to get her to go back to Adrian, essentially. And so she finds out that... and this is the climax of the movie. She finds out she manages to stab Adrian a couple times. He runs out of the room. He kills a bunch of like police officers and military guys, and then tells her he's going to go kill that young girl to punish her. And he runs off. And so she speeds home. He beats the crap out of the young girl's dad. He is about to kill the young girl. And all of a sudden, Elizabeth Moss shows up and fires a bunch of rounds into him. And you think it's the end of the movie, and she goes to pull off the mask, and it's the brother. And Adrian is found in the house tied up. And
so like what that means is when he escaped after his suit was broken, because it was funny, Ethan leaned over to me, he's like, how's he going to sneak up on the girl? His suit is broken. And we just thought it was bad writing. No, Adrian ran home.
And the brother had another suit
and went to the house. And then that gave Adrian time to lock himself up and pretend like, oh, my brother locked me out.
And so then he frames his dead brother for everything that went down.
It's brilliant.
And it's such a good twist. And Tyler, right before she pulls off the mask,
like,
goes,
it's the brother.
It's the brother. And all of a sudden he pulls off the mask, and I was like, oh, well, damn it. Like you're so right. And sure enough, it is just a movie that, I mean, it's like you predict where the movie is going to begin and where the movie is going to end, and you know that he's invisible along the way. But beyond that, it's a pretty unpredictable movie.
Well, and as well, I think what I appreciate about it is there's no wasted time and no wasted moments.
True.
Like, everything that happens in the film is important to the plot.
Concise.
So,
yeah.
like, for example, I think one thing that's like a little thing, but earlier in the movie, like, he puts the Invisible Man puts the burner on too long, and her house
puts it on high.
Sets on fire, and then she tries to put it out with water. You don't put out a grease fire with water, and so the daughter comes in and like grabs out a fire extinguisher from under the sink and sprays it with the fire extinguisher. At the end of the film, when Elizabeth Moss is facing down the Invisible Man, she runs in with the fire extinguisher and
sprays him so that the powder that the
like
fire
so she can see him. But what's interesting is like if we had had that last scene where she just ran in with the fire extinguisher, we'd be like, where'd that come from? But the fact that we had that scene earlier, but that scene also wasn't just pointless. It's not like, hey, here is the fire extinguisher.
It was like he's already starting to toy with her.
And so the plot and the storytelling is airtight in this one.
Not to mention, I also want to bring up a lot of the visuals. We see some of the really cool ones in the trailer, like when he's climbing up the ladder and she dumps the paint, and all of a sudden you see his.
So good. It's such an easy effect to do as well.
But it's such a cool one. It's a really good payoff. They actually cut the cool handprint on the shower, which was a little bit of a bummer. But they cut quite a bit from the movie. But and then the breathing, all that stuff. It's a lot of the scares are very, very cool visually too. They play a lot with the invisible effect. One of my favorite shots is actually, and it's probably done through like a green screen bodysuit, but he picks her up by the throat and is choking her and holding her up, and this is before his suit is broken or anything. But yet you can tell exactly what position he's in and exactly how he's holding her because of her positioning. Like you see her trying to claw his arms off, and you can see the exact form of his arms, and then she manages to grab a plate and beats it over the head, and you actually see the glass fall around his head. Like it's like you can make out his silhouette, yet there's nothing there. Yeah. They play with the invisible concept in a really, really cool way that's very visually appetizing.
And I think for a Blumhouse horror movie especially, this is a very efficiently made film. I look at it and there's no real glaring like, okay, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Like it really does such a good job. The plot is pretty airtight. Mm-hmm. It's really impressive. It's really a good achievement, and it's a step in the right direction for horror. And I want to see more stuff like this.
And I also think it is a pretty cool story. I didn't even realize until the credits rolled that I think it's directed by a woman. And not that's what I'm trying to get at here. What I'm saying is that I did wonder. I do think it's a story of overcoming abuse and stuff like that in a relationship. And as far as it goes like that, I mean, it's a pretty empowering movie throughout as well. I think it's a pretty strong movie. I really dug it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'd say, and it does look like we're running out of time, but really just simply, it's good.
It's
you
awesome.
You should go see it. Like for a horror movie, if you're a horror movie person, it's fantastic.
It's a once in a dozen type.
Definitely should recommend.
Yeah,
definitely would recommend.
Awesome.
So, make sure to check us out on Instagram. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good.
60 seconds films on
That's the one.
Instagram. Yep. And so just give us a follow. Thank you for going with us beyond the cinema. We'll be back next week.